A number of us on this committee have been to all of the Syrian refugee camps, going back to, the early days of conflict between, Bashar al-Assad's regime and some of the rebel groups in Aleppo and elsewhere in Syria. So we traveled to Kilis up in the north of Aleppo, to Adana out by Idlib. We went to Beirut, where many of the refugees fled, and also to Zatari, which is the camp in Jordan, about 85,000 refugees. What do you know about, now that was all before this, the Turkish incursion that we're now witnessing. Is there any data or any information that you have with respect to the current situation, what may have been exacerbated by the withdrawal of U.S. troops and then the subsequent invasion and incursion by Turkish troops and that violence? What has that done to the flow of refugees to these camps and elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have
Your microphone. Yeah.
We don't have hard numbers yet, and frankly, the situation changes every day. But basically, what we have seen is movement from the populations that were in the area where there has been violence toward Al-Hasakeh and further south. And they have been setting up in kind of informal shelters. They've been taking over schools, different buildings, and you have very overcrowded conditions, difficulties delivering services there and reaching people there. Most of the humanitarian agencies have had to withdraw their international staff. Syrian local staff has remained active and has been delivering services to the moving populations as much as possible. They're operating in a very insecure environment, obviously. Some of them actually themselves have become refugees and have decided to leave for fear of the changes that may happen, and fears of conscription and fears of violence because of what's going on. So lots of population movement. We've seen in the news thousands of people moving into Iraq. We think that the camp that was set up there will be at maximum capacity by day after tomorrow if the flows continue at this level. So
right.
Lots of strains on the services and lots of movement.
Thank you. We did have a chance last week to visit with King Abdallah. The Jordanian schools on the border there near Zatari have gone to 2 shifts. So the Jordanian kids go to school in the morning to early afternoon, and then the Syrian kids come in and go to school from late afternoon onward. So it's amazing that the Jordanians, and actually in Beirut, the similar situation where the local kids are going to school in the morning and then the refugee kids in the same schools. So very, very generous and gracious by those host countries, but still enormous pressure. Ms. Torres, we've had an opportunity over the last month, myself and other members of this committee, to visit Algeria, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Afghanistan, asking those governments to repatriate their nationals who went to Syria to fight on the side of ISIS. I would say that the results have been mixed. The responses have been mixed. There's not been this outpouring of willingness to repatriate those fighters because of the radicalized state they are in. How do we tackle this? Even countries that have resources for political reasons and for stability reasons are very nervous about bringing those individuals back.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the first thing we have to recognize is that if we do not take these people back to their home countries, we're only redoing the cycle where we're creating a new cycle of terrorism. If we don't take these citizens back, if we don't provide them with justice in their own countries, What we have done, what I understand many countries have done, some countries, Kazakhstan is an example, Russia is an example, have taken their citizens back. They've invested in rehabilitation and reintegration programs. I understand as far as our center is concerned, we've met with other governments to talk to them about perhaps changing their legal systems. I know a lot of European countries, for example, have had a difficult time because their sentencing and their charges allow for maybe 2 to 5 years imprisonment, and they're scared and concerned about what happens when terrorists are then freed. There are ways to go about that. You can change your laws, you can change your legislation. You can also develop parole-like programs that would allow for a smoother transition for terrorists to rehabilitate and eventually reintegrate.
Very good. My time has expired.